Hi all. We're going to do some R programming. I'm not going to try to cover the whole topic in one video. So this is going to be a series of videos, period of weeks or months, probably longer, depending on how things go. What I plan on is doing a handful of programs just to show you the very basics of writing code, starting from scratch. You know, I'm talking to people who are just beginning. So I'm talking to the lowest common denominator, very bottom. So for some of you, I might be going way too slow. And then later on, we'll get into a book. We'll talk more about that later. So to start, I've got a text file here that has a few basic programs in it. First, we have to install R. There's different ways that you can run R. You can run it out on the web, but I think it's best if you just install it on your home computer so you can work on it sitting at your desk. So here's the main R website here. It's r-project.org. So we'll just copy and paste this here into your browser. Okay, and here's the main R website here. There's a lot that we can go over here, but we'll come back and we'll look at this website later on. I don't want to get caught up in all the all the theory. I want to get right into the code. Let's look at the code. Here's the newest version. We can download R here. So we'll click here, and it brings us to this page here. And in case you've never seen something like this, what this is saying is, where do you want to download R from? What country do you live in? Pick your country. You can download it from any one of these. It's not really going to matter, but most people just pick one that's close to them. So I'm in the US, so here they're saying, here's one for Berkeley, here's one for Iowa, so on. Okay, so here's one for Case Western. I'm going to go with this one because that's where the Cleveland Clinic is, and that's basically what we're talking about with R, right? Is data type stuff for hospitals and things like that. So that's why I thought we'd go with this one here. But you can pick any one of these. So we go Case. Okay, and then it's saying here, okay, so we're looking at the R website at Case in Ohio. And then now it's saying, well, which one do you want to download here? You want to download the one for Linux, for Mac, or for Windows. It depends on what your computer is. Most people will be on Windows, but you might want to pick Mac or Linux if that's what you're running. So Windows. And then there's different ways that you can install it here. We're just going to go with install R for the first time here. And then it says download R here for Windows. See, it's a 62 meg file, and it works on a 32-bit or 64-bit computer. Okay, so we just click on that, and it starts to download the file. Yeah, here's the actual file, R, and then it gives the version number 3.2.2. Basically, it's version 3, and it's an exe. You know, R version 3 for Windows, and it's an exe file. Exe meaning it's an executable file. And we save it to the desktop here. You can save it anywhere you want, but I always like to save things to my desktop here. Okay, and I'm running Firefox, so I can go up to Tools, Downloads, and watch the download here. Okay, so while that's running, we can go back to the main page here. And down here there's manuals. And there's all types of things here, but I like this one here. If we click on this one here, there's a few different ways that you can check out R here. So we're mainly looking at the top one here, R, an introduction to R, and then we can come over here and say, well, okay, how do you want to view it? You can open it up as a web page here. So this is the whole file as one web page. That seems kind of silly, but it comes in handy if you're working somewhere and you're not allowed to download things. So you can just view it out on the web. I usually go with the one that says PDF. You can right click and go open. And then you can see here it's a 100-page file. And it's actually a small book. They go through the table of contents here, and they actually skim through R pretty quickly here, the basics. So if I can get you to the point where you understand this PDF in, say, a year, you know, we're doing good. Yeah. If you took a college course, you would have some introductory programming courses, hopefully, and they might skim through this in a few weeks. depends on how advanced the course is. They might say go home and read it this weekend. So, you know, for us, we're going to take our good old time and take it as slow as possible. Okay, so here's the PDF. If you click this guy here, it's got a little arrow that's pointing down. You can click that and download the PDF to your desktop. You don't have to download it. You can always go back and view it out on the web if you want. But I like to save things to my desktop. It just things open faster and run faster if you have them on your desktop. Okay, so now it's saying where do you want to put it? We'll put it out on the desktop. If you want, you can bookmark it. You can bookmark this page here. There, you can also just kind of left click, hold, and drag it to your bookmarks too. So. Okay, so our download should be done. There's the manual. Okay, if we want to install this now, we just click on this twice to install it. Choose the English version here. Okay, and here's the here's the installer. So usually things install fairly easy. You know, you just keep clicking the next button. So read through the license. Click next. This is the path where to install it. For most of us, you can just leave that alone. That's the path on your hard drive. Like if you go to your computer here and go into C:, here, they're saying where do you want to put it in here. And that's the C. We're on C:, into the programs files folder here, and then it's going to create an R folder. So for most of us, you can just leave that alone, but they only give you the option there because some companies like to change where the application goes. So that's why they give the option. So for most of us, just click next, and everything is selected here. I'm not gonna customize things. I'm just gonna leave this as they have it set here. We can always come back and change it later. Select the Start Menu folder. That'll be here, start menu. So R is fine. I'm going to go ahead and create a quick launch icon on my where is that going to be? If this is going to be on the desktop, where will this one be? Quick launch. Okay, well we'll find out. Okay, and then it starts to install. It's actually a pretty small app, so and it's done installing. And just click and then just click the finish button. Okay, so here's the two icons. We don't need this one here, and we're done with the installer here. You can trash it if you want. This one here is R, and what this is saying is we're running R. It's a shortcut. That little arrow means it's a shortcut to the regular application. It starts it up, and it's the 64-bit version. So just so you know, older computers were 32-bit, newer computers are 64-bit. Practically everyone's computer these days will be 64-bit. If you're curious, you can right click on here, go down to properties, and right here it tells you if you're 64-bit or 32-bit. For our purposes now, it really won't make a difference if you're running an older version, 32-bit. I've seen schools still run 32-bit because they haven't updated their computer, so that's fine. So we'll start our. Usually after you install something, it's best to reboot so you get all the changes. These days you don't have to reboot. Most things seem to work, but so we'll start R. So this is the R console. This is where we'll do most of our work. There's other programs that run R. Here's the R Studio, but I thought this would be a good place to start because you should be aware of this. The R Studio is more of an IDE, and we'll get into that later. Okay. Okay. So here's my text file here. Okay, so we went out to the web and downloaded R. There's this small thing here. It shows you the version. So we can just cut and paste this here, right into here. Okay, so we're just going to see the version here. Okay, so it gives us some basic information about our computer, and then here it shows us we're running version 3.2.2. Date and the date that it came out. It's always best to run the updated versions, but after you've been in this for a few years, it's real hard to keep track. They come out with new versions every few months, so I wouldn't worry about it too much unless there's major problems that were fixed or major additions. So for our purposes, it's not going to matter. This nickname thing is something that lots of companies do. Like version 3.2.2 has the nickname Fire Safety. So that's nothing you really have to worry about. For my purposes, we're running version 3.2. Okay. Okay, so just to do a few quick examples to show you how R works. Here's one that runs the help screen. So we'll if you wanted to, you could type in help here. I like to cut and paste things, so we type help at the prompt. That little angle bracket there is called the prompt. Every command line you work on seems to have a different prompt. Some will have a $sign. There's all kind of weird signs. So they can actually make that prompt be any character. So this, we're typing things on the command line here. So we typed help and the 2 parentheses on the command line, and then hit the enter key. And you can see that one runs a web page about help. It tells you how to use the help function. So my experience is these help pages are pretty tough. They're kind of hard to understand. So right now, if you're just getting started, lots of this won't make sense. So I wouldn't worry about it much. But, okay. Next one, like let's say you wanted help on the print function. How do I use the print function? Well, then you would use help and put print inside of the parentheses. So then it shows up, it displays a help page for print. How do I use the print function? 20 different ways to print something out here. Okay. Now we'll get more into the code. Okay, so we're going to use the print function. Okay, and we're going to write the word hi to the screen. So this is kind of odd. We have to use the parentheses and the quotes. So print hi to the screen. Okay, and this one here is just meaning there's one line in our output. So it prints hi. Okay, now we'll get into creating numbers. Okay. A fancy word for that would be variable. So here we're gonna take 1 and add 1 to it. So 1 plus 1. And then we're going to store it in X. So this is kind of backwards for most people. So take these two numbers, add them together, and then store 2 in here. Okay, so you can see we didn't see anything displayed. So if we want to see what's inside X, we just type a X here and hit the enter key. So then it displays our 2. And that just means one line in our output. This is our output here. There's an old-fashioned way to do that too. Instead of the equal sign, they use this little character here, and that's just called an arrow. You know, this is supposed to be a picture of an arrow. You know, we add 1 plus 1, and then we use the arrow to store it in X. That would do the same as that line here. Okay, now X is in memory, right? RAM memory. That's why we can do this. You know, X is in memory. Sometimes you want to take it out of memory. So what you can do is say RM for remove. Remove X from memory. Okay. No output means it worked. Right? We ran this command on the command line. Okay, this whole line here, that's the command line. This line is on the command line. This line is on the command line. This line is output. This is the command line. Okay, so if we try to print X again, it's not there because we had removed it here. Okay, here's some fancier ones. So here we're taking 1 and storing it in a variable called num1. Just like we took these two numbers and stored them in X, we're doing the same thing here. So before we run this one, let's see if you can follow this one here. So we store 1 in number 1, and then we store 2 in number 2, and then we take num1 and add it to num2 and put the total in total. So num1 has a 1, num2 has a 2, so 3 will be in total. And then we print it out with this one here. So that one's kind of tough for the first day. So if I'm losing you, don't worry about it. We'll go over this again. You know, this is just the first video to help get your feet wet. Okay, just to show you how this stuff works. Okay, so first we'll run this one here. Okay. Okay, it worked, so we didn't get an error message. And then we're going to run this one here. Okay, it worked because we didn't get an error message. Now num1 and num2 are in memory. Right? Num1 has a 1 in it. Num2 has a 2 in it. Now we want to add them. That's where this line is. So we add num1 to num2 and store the total in total. Okay, just so you know, these don't have to be named num1 or 1 and 2 in total. You know, you can name these anything you want. I just tried to keep the name somewhat understandable so you could follow the code as to what's going on inside there. So I'll hit the enter key, and now those two variables were added and stored in total. We can use the arrow keys to go up and down, so I'll just arrow up and then we'll print total. And see, 3 was in total, right? So it prints out 3 here, and we only have one line on our command line. So this is the number we're after here. After we ran this one, we now have 3 variables in memory, right? num1, num2, and total are all still in RAM. What you can do is run the list function, list, ls for list. Don't let these abbreviated things mess you up. They're really not that big of a deal. When you first start looking at them, they might be kind of tough, like what ls stand for, you know. But that goes back to the early days of computers when they were real small and they didn't have a lot of memory. So instead of actually using the whole word list, they would abbreviate things just to save on memory. And here it is 50 years later and we're still doing the same thing. So list. So we're going to list the 3 variables in memory. So here's our 3 variables in memory. num1, we put num1 in memory here. num2, we put num2 in memory here. We put total in memory here. Okay, now this one is really tricky, but I just thought I'd throw one in to show you how things work. And it's not always this tricky, but I just thought I'd show you a tricky one. Okay, here we want to remove all those variables. We could do it one at a time, the way we did here. Remove one variable, x. But let's say we want to do it with one command. So here we run the list function and store the results in the word list. That word here could be anything, you know, it doesn't have to be the word list. So we run the list function just like we did up here. We ran a list function here. Okay, and we stored the results in list. Then we did a remove on list. Okay, so these 2 parentheses go with that one, and then this parenthesis and this parenthesis go together. So that's a pretty tough line there, so if I'm losing you, don't worry about it. Okay, so now that removed all of the variables. So if we come back up here and try to print out total, total isn't there. Okay, and then, you know, something that I like to do, I like to clear the screen and start up here at the top. Most people just keep typing things here at the bottom, but I like to clear. I like to clear a string. So just hold down the control button. It's the CTRL button. There's one at the bottom on each side, and press L. Hold down control, press L, and that just clears your screen so you can have more room to work. Okay, and I think that's good for the first video. Next time we'll come back and we'll pick up on some of the details with these things, and we'll go through the web page more. Okay, see ya. Bye.